of Saskatchewan Rugby, and luckily the MC for tonight to bring us through. So in my opinion, this is, for me anyway, this is one of the most exciting nights that we've got planned. We had two excellent speakers planned in Brian Kelly to lead us through some marketing, as well as we're happy to have Aaron Kennedy. Brian and Aaron are both from Rugby America's North. Unfortunately, Brian is unable to join us this evening because he's having a baby. So I think we'll give him tonight off, first time dad, so we'll let him enjoy that experience and not have to share it with all of us. So I'll introduce Aaron. Aaron has worked for RAN. She's worked for USA Rugby. She's worked for Rugby Canada and also the International Olympic Committee. She's joining us this evening from Pennsylvania, and she's here to talk to us a little bit about community partnerships as well as her girls rugby program. So might as well start off. We'll start off with Aaron tonight.
And I'm starting with these social media branding stuff, or all of it?
I think we will start with your piece, community partnerships.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Do I have the ability to share, or can you share my presentation?
You'd be good, Aaron, your co-host.
If you'd like, I can just share it for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm on my iPad. I'm not sure how to do it. So yeah, if you can just share that, would be great. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. So I realized I got my year wrong. We're not in 2020 anymore, which is really good news. So hello, everyone. Really excited to be here and working with you all. First section I'm going to talk about is just developing partnerships. So talking about different community partnerships and things that you can do with your clubs to really enhance your clubs, increase your membership, and increase your just outreach in the community. And when it comes to partnerships, really, this is about how do we expand our networks? Okay, so we in our clubs have networks that we only reach so far, and then every organization, company, business, whatever, has a network as well. And really developing that partnership is all about how do we kind of capitalize on those other networks, and how do we make it mutually beneficial? So how can we benefit from what that organization or community group can offer? And then how can we also benefit them where they can take something away from that as well? So for the next few minutes, I'm going to split this up between kind of three main topics, which is about knowing your own worth. So really looking internally at your club or your group, and then looking at who are potential partners in the community, and then finishing up on that execution piece and how we can really professionalize that relationship and that presentation. So if we go to the first slide on our knowing our worth. So I know, I believe you've gotten into this a little bit in terms of really identifying what your group or your club's values are, as well as kind of your mission and vision. So this is going to be, truly, and it's amazing. You may think this is kind of obvious, but it's interesting the amount of clubs that I speak with who don't actually know the answers to these questions, or trying to come up with that every year in deciding what's the direction that our club is going in and what's kind of our foundation in terms of values, our mission and vision. So really starting that internal look at what are we trying to achieve, and laying out all those different values. And then I have a couple small notes at the bottom there, which is how does that then relate to a community partner, is you really want to we want to align those values. So we obviously don't want to get involved with an organization whose values don't align with ours, or their mission or vision might go against what we're trying to do. Not a good partner to get involved with. But as long as we really know what we're looking at and who we are as a club, then we can align that with other organizations that would benefit that. I then want you to really look at your audience. And by audience, I don't mean partnerships here. I actually mean your members of your club. And again, looking internally, we want to look at who who is our club actually made up of, and what are their interests. So I really want you to focus on, so everyone in your club, we'd love to think that they live and breathe and die rugby every single day and don't have anything else in their life. They just want to do rugby all the time. And we have those people. But everybody else, for the most part, has interests and involvement in different activities outside of rugby. And all of those interests and activities mean that it's a connected network that we could be tapping into. So for example, if I join the rugby club and I'm also maybe really active in theater or yoga or something else, then perhaps there are other people within my theater networks or my yoga networks or whatever networks I'm in that might also be interested in rugby, because then we're sharing those interests. So if you haven't taken a look and gotten to know who your members are and who you're actually trying to recruit and bring into your club, that's a good time to start doing that. And again, really focus on what are their interests outside of rugby, and then how could we tap into those networks and those groups by doing that. And then the last piece, again, when we look internally, is about really creating a menu of offerings. I think too often we think the only thing that we do and do well is rugby. But the truth is we can do so many other things outside of rugby. So this is about, before you even approach a partner or anybody in the community about forming a partnership, is you want to be able to know what, again, knowing your worth, what can you offer them? And this may change every time you approach a new partner, but it's about what are the different things that you can offer, and really encouraging you to look outside of rugby. So some examples here could be, maybe you can offer fitness, a workout type of fitness for a company, for a business, for something like that, that has some rugby elements incorporated in it, but it's not just straight rugby. Maybe leadership type training or presentations. I've given a lot of different presentations around like coaching education or leadership for businesses, because we're taking the principles that we do on the field and we're turning it into, what does that look like in business? And coaching and business, they go hand in hand. So there's a lot of different things that we can offer. Another example I have for you, we were a booth at a conference it was 400 or 500 people. And we ended up taking a slot with like an Energizer slot. And we ended up having to be in a room with 500 people all sitting at round tables. And we had 15 minutes to energize them. And we came up with a plan of, passing the ball around. We had a ball on every table, passing the ball around every table, incorporating different exercises, rugby, duck, duck, goose, all these types of different activities and things that had a little bit of a rugby element to it, but it wasn't a traditional rugby thing that we were offering. But we were able to be creative and fit in that space. So really start to look at who we are and what we do, who are our members, and then what is that menu that we can offer before we even approach another community partner or a potential partner. So then if we go to the next slide. So once you've looked internally, we really want to look at who are the types of partners that we can go after. And I think there's going to be some low-hanging fruit. There's going to be some people that you think these make sense, right? Maybe it's some community organizations if you like for the youth part of your club, or it might be, something more athletic or another type of sports that you might partner with that's a little bit more obvious. But truly, no business, company, or organization is off limits. That you can form partnerships with almost every one of them. And again, it's thinking outside of the box. So I've listed a few different categories here of different things. Again, some might be a little bit more obvious. Online marketing, so blogs, online like publications, things like that. Easily you could partner with them and you could write, guest blogs posts for them or articles, having advertisements or getting your members involved in that kind of stuff. Print marketing is kind of the same thing. Even though it's marketing type stuff, they can still be partnerships. It doesn't have to be a paid, like, hey, we pay you for an ad. It could be, we do something for you. And then in return for that, you then put an ad or an article or something in your print or online. Community events. So things that are happening in the community, farmers markets, fairs, festivals, races, social events, concerts, movies in the park, all that kind of stuff can be, there's an element of rugby or an element of partnership that you can put in place there. Community organizations, we know those, YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, those types of things in the community, Parks and Rec. Restaurants, again, too, different things of like hosting events there or bringing your membership to them in, again, in return for something that they can offer you. And again, then businesses. So any type of business truly could be a partner. And a lot of businesses, you have to realize that their business is one small thing about what they do, but they also have larger things that they want to get involved in the community. And a lot of times it's about giving back. It's about expanding their reach in some way. An example of this for girls rugby, for my other organization I'm involved with, is we have in Oregon, there's a construction company, and they were interested in getting involved in girls rugby because as a construction business, they do not typically appeal to females. And getting involved with us meant that it showed that their company was putting the time in and putting the effort in making construction an attractive option for females in the future. And they saw the long-term effects of that, of if we get involved with this organization that works with young girls, that shows them that construction could be an option for them in their futures. So great partnership there for them to get involved and do some stuff with our girls, and for our girls to then have that connection and relation there. So partnerships truly is, you want to connect the two. So you want to connect the last slide with this slide, meaning if you know your audience and you know the interests of your members or potential members that you want to link that up with where those individuals are gathering, where they're getting together, where they're getting involved. And then those are the types of businesses that you want to partner with or create those connections with. And then if we go to the last slide, there we go. So I wanted to talk about this because partnerships are great, but they're not great if we can't really execute on them well. And I think the worst thing that we can do, and unfortunately, I think a lot of rugby clubs get to this point, is they make the connection, say, great, we want to partner, and then the execution of that partnership falls off because we didn't do it well. So before you even approach a partner, is we want to make sure that we're really professionalizing what we do. And truly, you're going to set yourself apart because other sports organizations that are looking for these partnerships aren't doing these things. They're just knocking on the door saying, we'd like to partner, and then hope that something comes out of it. But if you go in with a professional presentation, your menu of offerings that you have, and you're doing it in a professional way, that's going to merit a much better partnership than if we don't. So nailing your pitch, I think prepare some really nice looking materials on who your club is, some history, some stats around who your members are. Your menu of offerings should also look great. If you're not familiar with the program Canva online, it's a free graphic design program. You can just design different templates and you look phenomenal when you do it. So I'd recommend things like that. And you can create a couple one-pagers, and you really want to nail that pitch. You want to go in there really professionally to set up that partnership. And then you really want to look at as well timing. So again, a mistake that we can make is setting up a great partnership, coming up with a few activities or things you're going to do, and then not actually timing it well with your season or when you're recruiting for things. And your season might end, and then all of a sudden you have something for your partnership, and now all that recruitment effort has to wait because you're recruiting for a season that's not in session. So just think about timing and how that falls into your own calendar. Probably include your calendar and your pitch and some stuff like that. And then the marketing too. We don't want to set up a great partnership and not actually market it internally and externally to make sure we get that wide reach that we want. And again, managing that partnership. So making sure that our partners are happy, that we're providing them reports on things that are going on, that we're maintaining that communication so that the partnership can continue and it ends up being really fruitful for both you and them. So just really, the point here is just about kind of linking all of these together, which is look internally and figure out what your worth is, find those good community partners, and then make sure that when you're putting that plan together, that it's really executed on impeccably. So quick overview on kind of developing those partnerships. Happy to open it up for some questions or move on to the next thing, but I want to at least open it up for if there are questions, or I'm not sure what the next step is for the presentation.
Yeah, for sure. Let's open it up just for some questions here to Erin, since we've got her here. The floor is open.
Erin, I'll maybe kick off if that's okay.
Sure.
Could you maybe, or speak to maybe an example of like some good stewardship programs or some good ideas that allow us to enhance that relationship on the back end? Because you're right, like I think I know that from my experience, we do some really good work on the front end to try and get a partner, but then we get consumed and busy, then we don't necessarily maintain it or enhance it. So a lot of the sponsorships or partnerships that we have aren't as long lasting as we would like. Could you maybe speak to some of the good work you've done to strengthen relationships?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that's really important when you're setting up those partnerships is to really outline everything that goes into that. I love to have kind of an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, with any partner that I develop that really clearly states, this is what I'm doing, this is what they're doing, and we both sign it and agree to it in the beginning. Because that's something we can keep checking back on to say, hey, what else was in the MOU that we said we were going to do? And that helps set you up for success very early on and gets that kind of mutual agreement there. And then it helps if you have, I don't necessarily want to say to put it on one person's shoulders, but it's good if you have perhaps a committee or maybe one or two people who can manage your partnerships, and that all they're doing then is they just have that lens of, this is what a partnership, like this is what we need to be doing for the partnership, so that when you get into events or meetings or activities that your club's doing, those individuals can have that lens of the partnership to say, hey, also in the MOU says we should be doing this, to help kind of manage that from an internal perspective. And then that way, you as maybe a club administrator or something, it doesn't have to fall on your shoulders, but you have some dedicated people who can look after it. And that really gives that personal attention to the partnership to make sure that it stays very strong. And honestly, things that go a really long way are things like reports. Just doing a quick report. So if let's say you did a partnership event, and let's say you partnered with like the Girl Guides of Canada, and you did a partnership event, had a bunch of Girl Guides come out, they played some flag rugby, and then you had a recruitment event and they signed up for your league. At the end of that event, gather some really good pictures, get a couple stats of like, this is how many girls we had, get a couple quotes from the girls saying, I had the best time ever playing rugby, and then sending that to say, hey, Girl Guides, we loved our partnership with you. Here's a quick report we did. And that it looks fancy and amazing. And they love that stuff. It goes miles or kilometers to just make sure I'm Canadianizing my language here. Yeah, but it goes kilometers for doing things like that. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do it. You're already taking pictures, you already have those numbers. So put that together in a fancy little document, and that really makes a difference.
If I could just add to what Erin said, which
Yeah.
is so well, is that takes, just to remind people, it takes dedicating someone to that, because the organizer of the event often doesn't have time to go out and get the right pictures. But if you have a few stewards assigned, if you have a sponsorship group, and sometimes that's a great role for your vets in the club. They're already well connected in upper echelons of the community and businesses and whatever, and they know what to look for to make it look good for those partners. So we wear that too heavy too often as organizers of the event, as a person running it and being in the middle and doing all that. Get those people over there with the camera and assign it to them to be the sponsor service folks.
Awesome.
Other questions or thoughts about partnerships? And I know that it'll be in some of your exercises, but I would encourage you to, almost do a brainstorm session about this and come up with some really hard partners and figure out how you could create a partnership with them. Like come up with a dog food company and figure out how you could do a partnership with them. And if you can figure something like that out, it's going to be really creative for when you're working with a partner that maybe makes a little bit more sense. But there's literally a partnership that could be happening with any type of company out there.
Awesome. Last call for any other questions for Aaron here.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't exactly know Rugby America's North. What does that cover? What region is that exactly, or regions?
Yeah, great question. So Rugby America's North is our regional governing body. So that includes Canada, US, Mexico, and the Caribbean and the like. So we're sort of basically North America, and we oversee all of the different unions within North America of those countries. And we assist with things like development, training and education, governance. We do competitions and things like that. So I focus now on development with our unions, and Scott covers all of our training and education.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so this is a good segue. Let's spend a 7-minute breakout. We'll do our breakouts, groups of 4 or 5 again. I'd like each of the breakouts to discuss any existing partnerships that they have, or some potential partnerships that you have within your communities. Now, we've got a really good diverse group across the clubs across the prairies, right? So I'd really like to have each of you share some of your experience with those. So Pete, can you send us away, please?
Jordan, just as we're doing, looks like there's a question just come in maybe last minute there.
Okay.
From Jarrett.
Okay. Jarrett, go ahead.
Yeah, so for Aaron, the question is regarding sponsorship, sponsoring for specific events or just as a whole. Is there something that's recommended for, do you want to bring them on just for, say, a youth rugby day, or do you want to bring them on as a whole sponsor and just allocate towards that, and then have them be a primary sponsor for that event? Is there a difference there? And if so, are there positives or negatives for that?
I don't think there's I wouldn't say there's any necessarily positive or negatives to it. I don't think there's a vast difference. I think it's going to depend. It's very similar to partnerships in terms of what that sponsor is looking to gain from your relationship, and you in conversations. So typically there's, I've heard this a couple different times, but you may talk to somebody 7 different times before you actually get that decision made on what they're really interested in. So I think spend some time in the beginning with any potential sponsors who are going to financially support you to find out what are their goals and what do they want to do. If they really want to reach families, like parents, for example, then you may have that menu of offerings to say, well, you could get involved with this event, and that's this level of sponsorship. And then, or there are, again, that kind of menu of offerings to say, this is the bronze level, this is the silver level, this is the gold, and kind of increase the different activation points for them as you go up with your dollar amount. So I think it's kind of giving them the choice. I think for a small event, it's great if that's the first step in the door, where it's like, hey, come on board as a sponsor for this event. And then we can have a conversation of what that bigger sponsorship could look like. I am a fan of shoot for the stars. I think go at that top level and say, here's all the things we can offer. And if this doesn't fit your needs, we can always pare this down and find something that fits. I think the best thing you can do is tailoring your sponsorship offerings to the needs of your potential sponsor. So if you find out that their goals are, X, Y, and Z, and then align that with some of the different things that they can get involved with. But I think, you're going to get what you ask, or maybe a little bit less. So if you don't ask for the big top level sponsorship, then you may not get that. But if you ask for the top level, you could probably pare it down and get a smaller level if the top level is not something that they can do. So I say go for the top one, see if you can get them involved in a bigger way. Or if it is something you're just trying out, maybe bring them in at that smaller level to then use that as a platform to go up to the next. But I think, again, creating that menu is really key. Kind of that sponsorship presentation, some of those documents, 1-pager on who you are, what your mission, vision, values are, and then some different areas where what those dollar amounts could actually equate to, and having those ready to go is great. And again, there's a lot of great templates on Canva, or I'd be happy to share some from Girls Rugby or Rugby Americas North and some other stuff that we've done to kind of put that package together for them.
If I can add one thing to that too, Aaron, like you had mentioned earlier, reporting back out to your partners. I think whatever you decide that you're using that money for, I think it's important that you are showing your partner that you're actually using that money in a productive way. So especially if they've laid out a value statement of their own about what they want to see out of it. If they say they want to be involved in junior rugby and then they give you a stack of money and your report doesn't say we spent this money on junior rugby and here's specifically what we did, it's more unlikely that they're going to come back. But if you put that information into your report, regardless of what it ends up being, if you have a general high level sponsor, you should still say, here's what we were able to accomplish with the money that you provided or the service that you provided.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're making that agreement, you're making that sponsorship agreement or partnership agreement, put that in there, say in your MOU or whatever your contract or whatever it looks like, you know, my club will send you a report at the end, and that keeps that person that's responsible for that sponsorship or partnership kind of a reminder for them, and keeps them like, oh, yep, I got to put that together. Because yeah, if you don't show how you use the money, then like Andrew said, like it's likely that they're going to say, this wasn't worth it, so I'm not going to go back. Whereas if you go above and beyond, then that'll be very fruitful for you.
Awesome. All right, Pete, can you take us away, please? Here we go. Everyone's back here.
We're coming.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Some people got lost, but majority of everyone's back in the main room here. Awesome. I know my group, I'll speak for our group here. We had a fantastic sand session, really diverse ideas. And just quickly, we'll just share with all the groups, but just with the first group here, one of them was a university club who partnered with the university and assisted and helped out at other sporting events, right? So as they're trying to build their brand and become part of the university brand, it kind of helped them leverage that relationship as well as generate revenue from working football games and hockey games and stuff like that. So some other key successes was partnering with a supplement company. So they'd sponsor their athletes with supplements, and so just a win-win for both. One out of Winnipeg was partnered with the local community center. So there wasn't actually a monetary value, but again, it was a key partnership developed there, which helped them deliver rugby programming there in the community. So, and then another example was sharing their facility with a major community event not related to rugby, right? So it was able to draw community members into their facility and kind of highlight rugby in that sense as well. So anybody else would like to share out of the groups?
Jody, I think the best one I've heard was from Group 6, and that was I think the Edmonton Pirates, Amelia Towns, that they actually partner with some beekeepers to allow beehives on site, which I think is unreal. Maybe an idea for Maple Grove in Manitoba.
Yeah, interesting. Wow.
Some rugby brand honey soon coming out of that.
Wicked.
Yeah, I think in Groom 9, and that's a lot of our conversation centered on opportunities not related to rugby and what the various clubs represented in our group were doing in that regard. It's not just reliant on getting a sponsor name on a shirt or naming rights and things like that. So it's good discussion.
And I'll talk from one thing that came out that is really a good point to think about is we may, just with partnerships in general, is we may have to educate our members on how to execute on partnerships. So one of the things we talked about a lot was all of our members, as well as all of our alumni, are all tied to some sort of business because for their jobs. And a lot of times we don't even access those businesses for our partnerships or potential sponsors. But a lot of times our members don't know how to do that. They don't necessarily know who to talk to, or they don't have the right resources to do that. We had to with some of our parents for girls rugby, is they'd say, oh, could we sponsor this? And we're like, absolutely, you could sponsor this. And they're like, we didn't even realize we could do that. We didn't know you were a nonprofit. We didn't know that you were this. So coming up with some resources for your members, and maybe even an educational session to say, here's the information you present to your company, here's the person you talk to, or set up that meeting. So having a lot of good education on that. And then we also talked about too, of leveraging some other resources that you have locally, such as perhaps national team players, and some other people that might bring a little bit of that extra, just extra pizzazz that you could bring into some events. And then again, having some of those projects in place before you even approach a partner and sponsor.
Next group.
Great stuff. Yeah, well, I'll just, I hope someone from my group will add anything that I missed, but we talked a bit about the value of building a warm-up shirt that has all your sponsors on it, and making sure that a lot of people get their hands on it and wear it around, so that your sponsors are excited by that profile. That did some good things in some examples. Using your alumni, as Aaron mentioned, as a sponsorship group, they're all tied to things, and they can probably persuade their organization about the values of being tied to the group better than a stranger could. And also using some of those people who are already in your alumni, or people who are well connected in the community, and say, building a committee and saying, can you reach out to other organizations? Can you be our guides of how do we, get at other sponsors, and they can be your handshakers and your movers around to get outside partners involved. And getting those shirts, trying to get those shirts outside the rugby community, trying to sell them outside, make an attractive enough shirt that people, not just rugby people, want to get it. And that's really excites sponsors. They're not just tied to your club now, they're tied to a broader, cool thing you're selling.
Awesome. Any other groups have anything to share? Okay, good stuff. Thank you, everyone. So thank you, Aaron. That was great. We'll lend it off to Andrew here next to share about social media. And we'll circle back to Aaron to finish up the evening. So
awesome. Thanks, Jordan. So as we mentioned, Brian Kelly from RN was going to be here and deliver a full, very informative presentation for you. And we're going to actually have that up on the internet afterwards, including some video of when he's presented before. So you guys will still get that. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to go through some important things that are in his presentation that I really want to emphasize. Just some takeaways that you guys can have kind of right now tonight. So I'm going to share my screen again. And then there's a couple other pieces as well that I am going to run through with you. Someone will need to turn their mic on and just let me know you're seeing the presentation here now.
Yeah,
okay, perfect. Just in my dual screen, I'm not always sure whether I'm seeing presenter view on the right one. So I'm obviously not going to do Brian's bio for him, just so we're clear. That's not me, that's Brian. So this first tip that Brian was going to give here, I think this is extremely important, especially for kind of amateur volunteer organizations that we're primarily running as clubs. The world of social media is it's very easy to get drawn in and think that you need to be on everything all the time and spread yourself way too thin. So take a look at the channels that your club does have. Do you have all this information that Brian's indicated up to date? When was the last time that you were actually using each account? it's far better to be not on a platform than to be on it and not using it. Because what's happening when you're on it and not using it is that people are seeing your club Twitter account that you never tweet from. They just see this dead space and it's representing you, even though you don't really want it to be and are not using it to represent you. So if you're not going to use it, cut it and focus on the things that you are using. And a good way to find out which ones those are, taking the time to post to. So that's really good information there, and something that you can do right away to kind of clean up your online presence. So I won't touch on this one too much. Who's running your channels? This one is also important. I know in my club, there's a lot of people that are on our social media, but you really need to dedicate one person to be the champion of that. Not only is it going to make sure that things get done, but it's also going to help in terms of developing your unique social media voice. You want your channels to have a unique voice that's kind of tied in with your values and your vision as a club. You don't want it to just be to look like one of those things where you see them all over the internet. It's like we put 1,000 monkeys in front of it, made them watch 1,000 episodes or 1,000 hours of The Office, and then ask them to write an episode. You don't want it to be that, because you've got a whole bunch of different people with their hands in it, trying to tweet different things and post different things on Facebook. One voice, one kind of synthesized message that you want to get out, that's going to be the most valuable for you. So the one thing I will say in terms of the building connections is, and we'll get more into this later on in some other stuff that I want to highlight, is it's not always about hiring a professional photographer and that's the only way to get photos, hiring a professional videographer. There are people in your community that you can hire. There are people in your community that will volunteer their time. Go out and look for those people. Don't look at it as an impossible mountain to climb. And we'll get a little later on here, we'll get into kind of how you can do it yourself to make it even less of an obstacle to get involved and get posting good content. Yeah, so I had mentioned kind of your voice and your brand. That is important. So something to work on. Yes, so the thing I want to highlight here in terms of making social media a priority, finding room in your annual budget. Oh, how do I go back? There we go. Finding room in your annual budget is something that I would highly recommend doing. You might have budgeted some money for advertising and marketing. Look to find some room for social media in that. The potential value is immense, and I'll use an example. I've seen a company putting about $800, which is quite a large amount for a 1 week period, but putting down $800 over a week on Facebook ads got them about 120,000, showed it to 120,000 people, with obviously thousands and thousands of likes and impressions and things like that on those posts, on those ads. $800 to get your information in front of 120,000 people is pretty cheap. If you're looking at a billboard in the busiest intersection of your city where you might get 50,000 people, that's going to cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars to do that. So look at your budget, see what you can find, because social media can be a really cheap way to get into the advertising business and get your stuff in front of a lot of people very quickly. Okay, social media tips and tricks. So we do have a bunch of things in again, we're going to be sharing this presentation afterwards, so don't feel you got to take a bunch of notes. Two, there are a bunch of tips and tricks in your handbook as well. So I won't go through each platform too in depth. Here, I'll let you guys go through that on your own time, but do's and don'ts for Facebook. Well, there was something on here that I wanted to highlight. Yes. So on Facebook, you really want to take advantage of the fact that you can do text and photo/video. Don't just post your photo and video without text. Don't post just text without a photo and video. Both of them are going to be your key to getting a lot of reactions. Either way you go, you can look at your analytics and they're not going to perform as well as if you have both. And then also in this don't section is, I keep clicking as if I can highlight. Sorry guys. Also in the don't section for Facebook, don't overuse it. It's best to have kind of coherent, well put together posts, spaced out and timed at the right time of day, not posting every 5 minutes with update. Twitter. So we all love Twitter. Maybe not. Just the one thing I do want to mention with Twitter is it's a lot of work. Kind of, if you're going to use Twitter for your club, you need to be aware of that. It is multiple posts a day. It is spending the time to actually manage your mentions in order to, because Twitter thrives on that conversation and that interaction. So when people are responding to your tweet, that you're actually going in and responding to them, generating that conversation, that's going to keep them coming back to your content. It's not just a post and walk away kind of game. It is very much that community interaction has to be part of the time that you're budgeting to use this application. So that's in Brian's last point under don't here. It's about engagement, content, and discussions. That's why it's time consuming. Yeah. So Instagram, another fantastic one. The nice thing is Facebook and Instagram owned by the same company. If you're running ad campaigns and things like that, you can do that. You can run the same ad across Facebook and Instagram out of the same budget with the same content creation. You don't need to create two separate ads in two separate places. So that's even some of these things on Instagram in terms of editing your photos and making sure you've got high quality stuff. That goes across every platform that you use. Instagram is the most image based, but you should be making sure no matter what platform you're using that you are using high quality photos, and that you're making sure that you don't have blurry stuff, that your lighting's good. We'll go into some examples of stuff that you can use to make sure you have professional photos just through your phone and your computer. So don't take that to be something that's super intimidating, but again, you want to make sure that everything is looking good. So Brian's got some content examples. And I think one thing that I do want to highlight for you is a lot of these photos that he's chosen, and I'll keep going through the slides here, is the presence of people's faces. it's surprisingly, like, you can get some really good shots that don't have faces, but faces actually are supported by the algorithms of the social media networks a lot more than images that are kind of a generic graphic, or even just taking a photo of a field without a face in it. Like, you have some game shot photos, and those are fantastic, but you can see that they are kind of zoomed in and focused enough that you can see the faces. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why that's the case, but it goes back to the central idea of social media, is that it is social. They want you to share, they want you to make connections. They want you to be able to tag people in it and therefore broaden it. So the more faces that you can get in there, the more that you can tag people whose faces are shown, that just broadens how far out your post is going to reach, right? But the examples that Brian's used here are kind of very good in showing that. Okay, so here's the fun stuff. How can we all create some good content without bursting our budgets? So the first one, like your phone camera, if you're not using an old flip phone, if you're using anything remotely modern, your camera on your phone can take perfectly good high resolution photos. You don't need to drop a couple $1,000 out of your club's budget on a fancy camera. The one on your phone will do you just fine. We can use scheduling apps for to keep your posts organized. The one thing that I would recommend is that if possible, post things natively to the platform that you're operating on. Go into Facebook and post the thing on Facebook. Go into Instagram, post it on Instagram. I shouldn't say don't. The algorithms on each of these sites privilege that content that you have taken the time to go in and post. They don't give you points for using scheduling tools that are posting the same content onto 3 different platforms. Not to mention that doesn't, not all your settings on all your platforms are going to be the same. The same images won't always work. The same text won't always work. It's always much better to go directly to the site itself. But you can't, so for graphic design stuff, you can use services Crello, Canva, Vector. I will show you guys Canva a little bit, give you about a 30-second tutorial on what that is. Video, lots of wonderful video editors out there that you can use for free on the internet. A couple ones here: iMovie, OpenShot, Magisto, VideoPad. For photo editing, BeFunky, Pixel, Photo, Lunapic. One that I'll add in here as well, it's only an app form on your phone, is Snapseed. It's a wonderful little tool there. You can take any photo that you shot and basically change your brightness, sharpness, add filters, vignettes, crop, hide blemishes, things like that. Basically Photoshop in app form. So that's another one that you can use, but these ones are fine too. And I think that's all I have out of Brian's presentation. I'm going to show you 2 other things here before I exit. There we go. So first one that I want to share with you guys that I had already mentioned is Canva. So Canva is a graphic design app that you can find on the internet here, just canva.com. It's free to create an account. When you go in, you're going to be maybe here at the home screen, you can see I've selected social media for all these templates. So they'll actually make your kind of your canvas the right size for whatever you're doing. So if I want to do a Facebook post, it's made my canvas here that I'm working on the size that I want for that will fit nicely on a Facebook post. But I'm not going to kind of narrate everything I'm doing, but I'm just going to show you how quickly I can make something that I would be happy to post to social media. And obviously I've practiced with this, so you guys would have to too, but actually, no, I'm not even going to put the box on there. I am just going to. But all I'm doing is just taking this, adding some graphic elements. And all of a sudden, I've added a graphic element. I can add all sorts of different things, line shapes, stickers, put a nice big check mark because I think that I've done a really good job here, tongue in cheek. So you can really play around with Canva and do a whole lot of things that might normally seem to be not the most accessible, but they really, really are with these tools that we have nowadays. The last thing that I want to share with you guys before I kind of turn it back over for questions is I had mentioned in the presentation, like going through Brian's presentation about analytics. So when you're looking at your social media accounts, you really need to be paying attention to actually how your posts are performing, not just great, I've made a post and I put it out there. You actually need to be looking at, is it actually getting people to come to my page? Is it actually getting me likes? Are people actually clicking the links that I'm posting and accessing the information that I want them to? So this is my club's social media page. They have still given me access to it for some reason. But from this page, because I'm in here managing it, on the left-hand menu, if I go to Insights, this is where I'm going to be able to see all the data about how my posts are performing. So they're going to give me some things, page summaries, things like this. But if I scroll down, I can see the 5 most recent posts. So I can see exactly how many people have seen my ad, what the engagement is, so the likes and shares and comments, things like that. And I can go and I can see all posts. And I can look at this over a longer period of time than just the last few. Where's my cursor? And then something else that you guys can use is this pages to watch function here at the bottom of your insights page, where you can add similar pages to watch them and see how often they're posting, what their total page likes are, and how much engagement they're getting on a week-to-week basis. And what this helps you do is, so I can see this other club seems to have gotten a lot of engagement this week. I could go to their page and I could look at the posts that they're kind of doing and maybe get some ideas about what I might want to do for myself. And the last, I want to show you one other thing here on Facebook, because I had mentioned some paid advertising. Paid advertising can be a tool that you can use. So if you go to the ad center on your left-hand panel, and you can go to this create ad button and you can get started actually building some ads and putting some money behind it to actually promote your club and reach some more people. But that is where I will end it. Any kind of comments, questions, things that I can answer?
Awesome, Andrew. Thanks.
Well, I'll say quickly for thank you, Andrew, for picking up Brian's presentation while he's busy with the delivery of their first child on short notice. I think you carried that really well. And a lot of what I was surprised at was all the good don'ts in the social media stuff. I always hear do, like, you know, get it out there. There's some really good advice. And I assume that PowerPoint will be shared so people can learn from some of those. Avoid this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we'll get that up on the website.
Awesome. Pete, you want to jump in here a few minutes and go over your Rugby Alberta social media stuff quick?
Yeah, so I'll add to what Andrew said. I just wanted to show. So we actually did a partnership. So links back to that first topic with Mount Royal University, and I believe Zach is on the call. So he was one of those students, and it was part of a marketing class. And maybe Zach can come on in a second and share as well what his thoughts were as the student. But we worked in partnership with them. They helped us create a social media strategy. Similar to what Brian had talked about. And I just wanted to show Hootsuite. So Andrew mentioned it. I wasn't sure of the algorithm stuff, but the ability for two old guys like me and Graham to have these students plan up until, like, all, you know, you can watch me scroll. I'm going to scroll all the way till the end of April, start of May. We're going to have our social media content sorted. You know, in our big blocks, everybody's probably seen our Women's Wednesdays, our club bios and stuff like that. So this for us has been a valuable tool because we have the summer students for such a short period. They set us up for 6 months at a time, and we look like geniuses. People are commenting. Graham just shared a pic of his Twitter. His post of the coaching conference had 13,000 views today. So I mean, again, it's very interesting what you can learn from the analytics, and then also just using the ability to plan, you know, six months ahead with all this stuff. It really puts your logo out there and all that. So dive into Ryan's presentation. It's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. All right. Is there any questions at all in terms of some of those tools or any comments?
Hey, it's MJ from the Saints. Just about balance, like Facebook, I think used to be a really good way to try to like get the message out about what you're doing with the club. But what about like too much social media? So now you see social media where you have like Rugby Alberta, Pink, you know, the Women's Wednesdays, the Business Thursdays, and then sometimes the things where you actually need to action something, those get lost in those kind of info posts. So how do you balance that?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I can take that. So one of the things that kind of Brian had it in there as a little bit of a footnote, but something that's kind of, if I were giving a much longer presentation, I'd go into this a lot more depth, but you should be focusing, no matter what platform you're using, on spreading your posts out over different content pillars. So some examples are showcasing your community, showcasing your club's expertise, that sales piece of like, hey, I deliberately want you to do this. I want you to go here and sign up, or I want you to go here and buy this. And kind of lastly, like humanizing yourself, your club, all of that. And you really do want that diversity. You want those posts that touch on the different areas, because kind of contrary to what you're thinking intuitively, the three categories that aren't sales focused are actually the ones that get people to come on your page, get them to spend time there, get them to like your page, so that when you do put out that sales pitch, that thing that you want to get them to buy, they're there to see it. If you are constantly hitting people with buy this, do this, always with an ask of them and not just providing them with some kind of good, wholesome, down home content, they're gonna get tired and they're gonna tune you out. So you do need to have the balance between those different content pillars. One thing that I will re-emphasize though is don't overuse your social media constantly. In your handbook, I've kind of included a table of some of the most commonly used social media networks for you guys to decide as clubs which ones you want to use. But really pay attention in there to the recommended posting timelines. Like Facebook, it's really, if you're doing more than 3 a week, you might be doing too much. You're gonna start cannibalizing your audience, and they're gonna start tuning you out. If you're doing 80 tweets over the course of a week, you're probably doing too many, and people are going to be tuning you out, right? So you want to be paying attention to what that recommended number of posts per week is, no matter what platform you're using. And yeah, use your content pillars, make sure you're hitting all of them, but don't overpost because you need to get, because you feel you need to hit all of them within a certain time. Schedule them out. Like Pete showed his Hootsuite, and that's fantastic to schedule. That's recommended to schedule it out. But so if you have that sales piece, that thing that you really want to promote, you want to get people to buy tickets for, write that into your calendar, into your plan, and then make sure that around that, so if you're posting that, let's say next Wednesday, well, next Monday, don't post a sales thing, and next Friday, don't post a sales thing. Post two other different content pillars rather than 3 of the same one all in that week. But just that's how you kind of think ahead and do that to get that balance and to make sure that you're not overhitting anything. So that's a lot in a short period of time, but hopefully it made sense.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. All right. Well, thank you for that. We're going to wrap up the last presentation here. Back to Erin Kennedy to present her girls rugby program. Provide some more information on that.
Yeah, so just kind of continuing in the social media space. So I don't have any visuals for you. Just sort of last minute throwing this together. But so girlsrugbyinc.com is our website, and at Girls Rugby Inc. on our social media channels for you to check out afterwards. I'll put them in the chat. But if you don't know about Girls Rugby, so we are a nonprofit organization based in the United States currently with soon to be expanding into Canada. We're really excited. Hoping by fall 2021 we can kick it off, and hopes to get that started in Manitoba. But we do non-contact flag rugby just for girls, and it's we do ages 7 to 14, so that kind of grades 2 through 8. And we've been around. We officially launched in 2018, and we've been having programming and really building a brand around girls in rugby and what that really means. And we do a values-based curriculum, so we're very deliberate about the type of skills and things that the girls are learning in the programs. We get a ton of feedback on our social media, on our brand, and what we've built. So I just wanted to give you a quick insight into kind of how we've done that. So when we started out, we actually started to just Google girls rugby and rugby for girls and girls rugby in the US. And we were met with a lot of pictures of adult women, sometimes men, sometimes lingerie football, all contact, very, very little of flag rugby or touch rugby. So basically us starting out in 2018, just 3 years ago, there was no brand for girls in rugby of the kind of brand that we wanted. So everything that I do and everything that I try to do, especially within rugby growth and development, is making sure I'm doing my research. So looking into what's currently out there and what am I trying to create, and who's doing it really well. So we really wanted to create the right brand and almost redefine what it meant for girls to play rugby. And if we were going to have girls 7 to 14 playing the game, we needed to make sure that they were seeing girls of that age and who looked like them that were playing the game. So we came up with a lot of different things that we wanted to put in, but everything that I do, I'm an operations brain, so I have to have a plan for everything. And that just helps me kind of execute on that. So I really encourage you to come up with a social media plan and a calendar. And it doesn't have to be really specific of this is what I'm doing every single day. But one of the things that really guides us is we came up with a few rules around our social media. So I know we just talked about it, like, forget who mentioned it, but it was like, if you do a post on this week, maybe the next week you don't do that. So coming up with some different rules to say, we're leading up to the season, we're going to have at least one post a week for registration, and then at least one post a month to solicit donors, and at least one post a month to sign up for our newsletter. And then you create these rules, which really drives the content that you're putting out there. And then in addition to rules that you're creating, I recommend creating lenses. And by that, I mean, whenever you're posting something, you should have multiple lenses before you post it. So for us, one of the really big things that we want to showcase is the diversity of our programs and the diversity of our girls, which means being very inclusive in what we're posting, so that I'm not posting one girl who looks kind of similar every single day. I'm posting girls of different races, different backgrounds, different body shapes and sizes, different haircuts, hair colors, like literally having a different lens before we post everything, to make sure that we're being inclusive in what we're doing. We're representing who we are, and we're representing who we want to come into our organization. You'll also see like some of the different powerful statements, like "she leads," which is consistent with our mission and vision, again, consistent with that brand. Powerful quotes and things that girls and females can relate to help build that out. A big question too that we get a lot is, especially in the social media space, is what is that call to action? So everything you're posting should have some goal in mind, which is it just engagement? Is it likes? Is it comments? Is it sharing? Is it asking for an action like a donation or signing up for a newsletter and things like that? So you want to make sure there's that call to action to really engage your community, so that you don't have 100,000 followers and only 50 people are liking your photos. That's not a really quality engagement with your audience. Creating role models as well. I think this is really important. One of the biggest things I really struggle with whenever in any space I've worked in rugby is anytime I want to highlight a coach or a referee, I can't find any pictures of coaches and referees, because every time a photographer goes out, we say, take pictures of the game, but we're not deliberate in what we're asking for. So again, make sure you're putting out that content and being deliberate when you're going to take pictures. It's make sure a third of the time you're getting pictures of the coaches and the referees, and the other 2/3 of the time is the actual action or play, or maybe the fans. But you want to put all that kind of stuff out there, and create those role models, tag those people in your posts, and really personalize it, because we relate to those personal elements. So when I see, oh my gosh, Scott Harlan, he's a referee, I know Scott, and then I'm excited, I'm going to engage with it more because I have that personal connection. Or maybe I learn, oh, Scott's favorite color is pink, so is mine. And I can say that because I know it is his favorite color. And it's a way to connect me with that content. So really, you want to personalize it for who your members are, and again, who you want your members to be. And the best advice I could give you when it comes to social media is, again, create that plan, but then also look at what are the other content or accounts that you really like or that your members are following. So if you like what Nike's doing, can you recreate that kind of content on yours? If you like what a local soccer club is doing, or a local hockey club, or a yoga club or studio, or a business, that's a place to kind of recreate that content and get ideas from that, especially those that are really engaging, because there's a reason why they're being engaging. So why not, recreate it for your own? So we've really built this over the last couple of years, and it's it's tremendous the amount of positive feedback we get of what we've created, as now we're basically creating what a brand of rugby for girls is like. And we're doing that through our constant social media posts and making it really relevant and kind of sticking with some of those rules and lenses and things like that. We use ads all the time. We use mostly Instagram and Facebook because that's where the age of our parents, they're on Facebook and Instagram. We're not necessarily going after like those high school age girls, which that's going to be more TikTok, Snapchat, and some of the more modern ones that I don't know anything about. But just kind of be aware of who the audience is for each social media channel and where you're going to be on those. But those tools are really great too for scheduling stuff, especially as you're just getting started out. They're just really easy to get that through. So check out the girls rugby stuff. Would love and you know, happy again to chat with you on different ideas and things. But I just suggest that, you know, what is that brand you're trying to create? And it doesn't take a lot of work to do it. It just takes a little bit of effort and dedication to commit to it. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Any specific questions, Aaron, here to wrap up?
Yeah, hi, Aaron. So
Hey.
very small town, about 8,000 people. We've only got about, say, 1,200 kids between 5 and 20. And so we've looked to grow our women's program over the last couple of years. We've done very well at it. In terms of engaging 18 to 21 to reinvest in the, we'll call it 10 to 14 age group, do you have any tips or suggestions for getting buyback, or like getting them to buy back into the program they came out of?
In terms of like getting as volunteers and
Yeah, very much so. Like it's one where we have like a large amount of drift. It's a very transient town. So it's one where the kids, as soon as they finish high school, usually get out. But with COVID, we have more than ever a large group of them back here. And it's one where obviously we're running a rush rugby program this summer. And it's kind of, what are some suggestions that you might have for getting them to, you know, invest their time in it?
For sure. So number one, as I kind of said earlier, is doing your research. Ask them why they're not getting involved, or what could we do to get you involved. I think is always a good suggestion to just do a little bit, like even if it's a quick survey to say, hey, we're looking for volunteers. We'd love to get you involved. Tell us some of the things we can do. I'd say a lot of times you have to look at what's stopping them from getting involved. And a lot of times it's fear, because they don't want to fail. They don't really know what they're doing. Maybe they don't have the skills or the information. So sometimes providing like have a meeting and bring them out and have a little coaching clinic, like a rookie rugby instructor training, just to give them some and build that confidence, is really all it takes to just have that, you know, take that step into that. So I'd say it's just kind of understanding those two things. Like, what is it that they need to get involved, what's stopping them, and understanding that a little bit more. And then you kind of go against those of, if it's fear, let's do a coaching course or a refereeing course that can get you involved. Is it, lack of time? Could we change the scheduling and align that with your schedule? But I think really looking and understanding those of what's stopping them. But I'd say 9 times out of 10, you'll hear all the time, it's like, they've been playing for 15 years of their life. And it's like, can you coach the game? And they're like, I can't coach. I've never coached. I don't know anything about it. And it's like, you've been playing for 15 years. You have all the knowledge. You just need a little bit of that coaching knowledge or a little bit of that training and education. And then again, that builds their confidence, which allows them to take that step forward. I'll do a quick little plug. You can maybe take some ideas from it, but Rugby America's North, on their website, we just put out a referee development guide. And it talks a little bit about that and some different things to increase the referee population and kind of increase the quality and quantity of them, to, again, just make that experience a little bit better for them. But a lot of times it's something like that. So I'd say start with the research and see what you find out, and then probably go from there.
If I could jump in, Oli, I really like what Aaron has just said. I might add a couple of things. I haven't specifically been involved in girls rugby in terms of that leadership side, but I've been involved extensively in sport and recreation leaders and training programs. And the key thing is presenting or pitching the fact that you can build their professional skills. That age group is looking to where are they going in life and career. And it's interesting that even I see executives on our current rugby clubs right across the province don't appreciate that actually they're volunteering at the executive level is actually building their resume, and they're getting a chance to test their skills and leadership in a way that they would never be allowed to in their professional setting. So I would look to think about presenting to them that they can build a resume. Focus on building leadership, because that's what coaching does. They're going to build self-esteem and leadership skills through learning how to coach and working with people and having the opportunity to actually try out some of their skills. And of course, camaraderie. I think that there's a big sense around most of them will have had a positive experience coming through in terms of friends and so on. So although they aren't going to have the same friends and it isn't going to be quite as wide, but coming into a kind of a leadership position enables them to work really closely with a few friends, a few other coaches and leaders. Yeah, a few thoughts.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll expand on yours as you expand on mine. Some things you kind of thought about too is in that guide that we talk about too is just think about how you approach the structure. So sometimes the thought of being a head coach is really scary, but maybe being an assistant coach or a specific coach or knowing that you're part of a team is better. So just kind of reframing again, how you're presenting that opportunity. And I've had a lot of success, especially now with COVID specific, of players can't get back on the field right now for maybe a full contact and a full season, but pitching it to them as this is a great way to stay involved in the game and keep your skills fresh while, you know, we're getting back on the field. I've had a lot of rugby players say, you know what, I missed the game so much. I need to get back out there, and doing something like youth programs and non-contact and things that can happen is a great kind of stepping stone and keep them engaged in the game. So that might be a good recruitment. Just the way kind of tug on their heartstrings a little bit, be like, the game misses you, come back to the game, but in this way is a good one.
It's amazing that virtually every player that's, you know, an active player that takes a coaching course comes back and is a better player.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing just to kind of tie it together, because we're kind of talking about leadership development, social media, recruitment all in one, is that if we're looking at it from, you want to do social media advertising for your club, these kind of things are the things that you actually need to be including in your messaging and in your advertising. It's not just, you know, come out and play a rugby game. It's the leadership development pieces. It's if you are actually trying to target advertising to young women, giving them the things that Waldo's talked about in terms of what they're looking for out of the game and out of their journey. Again, it's not just on the field. So actually targeting those messages to people is going to get you a lot more value out of that money that you do spend on your advertising. And again, really good way to recruit people for very little effort, I guess.
Awesome. Any other questions here before we wrap up? Last call.
Yeah, I have a question. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Wade.
I'm wondering. Yeah, thank you. I'm wondering, can you start any kind of introductory certification in coaching or refereeing without knowing all the laws? Or is that just a bad idea?
Scott?
I was gonna say it's better probably if you don't know the laws, because then you don't have any habits that you have to unlearn when you start taking the courses.
Okay.
I'll answer quickly if you want.
Yeah.
We recommend that people look online, look at World Rugby Passport. There's a lot of online courses to take, both on the coaching side, things like key factor analysis that tells you what are the individual factors involved in making a good pass, making a good tackle, making a good line-out lift or a good prop. And that key factor analysis lets players become better players. because it shows them what they need to look for. Look at the laws site and the referee observation sites. That all of it's on World Rugby Passport. The online laws are a great exercise for people to go through. Referees go through that and sometimes contact me and say, international refs, Scott, I can't get this question right. There's something wrong with the question. No, there's something wrong with your assumption of law, because there's a great many assumptions of law because, well, everyone does that. But yeah, that's not law. So go for that first, the passport stuff. Then if you're interested in a referee course, I would recommend have 2 or 3 people from all of your clubs take referee courses, not to become referees. It's great if they do, but even if they don't, learn what the referees look for, learn what the referees are trying to assess in each tackle and ruck situation, in each breakdown, to determine who to reward and who to punish. Once you learn that, your team will be better. So absolutely take the referee course. There's no need to know the law as well. You'll learn them at the course or not, but yeah, that barrier is not there. But Wade, I do hope you end up refereeing, because I think you'd be solid at it.
Yeah. Just so what organizations run clinics and run courses, or does that happen at all? Like in person, or does that happen
Ryan
at
will
all?
answer that question.
Wade, I'll touch base with you offline. I'll shoot you an email and we can sort you out if you'd like to take a refereeing course. Thanks,
Okay,
mate.
thank you.
But I guess generally speaking, for everybody else on the call, your provincial union largely runs your courses for both coaching and refereeing, and you should just pay attention to their different social media channels, emails, what have you, for when those dates will be available in your area.
Restrictions pending, COVID restrictions pending, right? So awesome. No, fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you everyone for attending tonight. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Aaron. It's always a pleasure to cross paths with you. I find everything you present is always very inspiring to me, and sort of our future plans and our future programming. So thank you again for joining us this evening. And I'm going to give a shout out to him, but thank you, Brian, for bringing your presentation forward and sharing your video links. And yeah, so we'll still post this video live for everyone, and everyone will still have all that content going forward. So so we do have, I guess, another if you're welcome to stay on the line and have our sort of informal social a little bit and continue the awesome discussion that's happened so far tonight. But that concludes the course. Andrew, do you have any points about the workbook, the final copy of the workbook? Just to share.
So there's the copy that I posted earlier at the start tonight. Maybe I'll throw it up again, because going back up to the top of the chat is very, very onerous. We will post an updated version to the websites either later this week, next week, just with some other exercises and ideas that didn't really fit into any of the topic areas that we've discussed so far. Just some extra stuff for you to have available for yourselves to work through and look at.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again, everyone.